Hello, everyone. Welcome to your daily dose of emotional support internet television. This show is called The Sweat, and we host it. You're Jessie. I'm Emerson.
That's correct. A lot on tap for you guys tonight. An early look at NFL Divisional Round showdown picks, plus some future bets for the Super Bowl.
Okay, we're to spend cash on a teeny tiny small NHL slate. And Pat Mayo will join us live to look at some betting options ahead of the Sony Open teeing off tomorrow. That's golf.
And that sounds great and all, but batting leadoff tonight is NBA Building Blocks. And here to help is our panel, consisting of DK Live's Julian Edlow, Alex Barutha of RotoWire, and Josh Engelman of Awesemo.com.
So we are looking for key players to build your lineup around at different price points. Building block number one, Alex, which player is worth paying up for on this 10-game slate?
I like Blake Griffin here against the Lakers. I just don't think the Lakers necessarily have the size to deal with Blake Griffin. We know he loves to play bully ball, and he has the athleticism to run up and down the floor. This isn't a situation where it's like Hassan Whiteside, where the up and down play of the Lakers is an issue. Griffin can hang, and he's a guy who can go for 50, 55 fantasy points, and that would not be surprising.
All right, a top 8 price player this evening. What about you, Julian?
Yeah, I mean, I just got to stick with the guy on top here, and that's James Harden, who still feels underpriced at $12,200. It's not a contrarian play. It's a very chalky play, but I think that you need this chalk, particularly in cash games tonight. The matchup doesn't really matter. A lot of people could get scared off by Milwaukee. I think they're still going to play Harden for as long as Chris Paul and Eric Gordon are both out, but he still brings that 90 to 100 DK point upside in this matchup. The Bucks are a team that kind of pack it in the paint. They're better defending big men. I think this is a spot where Harden can, knock down a lot of threes without as much perimeter defense as he's used to seeing in some of these other games. So he's going to be a very trendy play, but I think we just need to still keep eating the chalk and paying up for James Harden in this spot.
Josh, what do you think? You going to eat the chalk with Harden? You going somewhere else for a highly priced player?
Not that I don't like Harden, but I'm taking a look at Giannis in that game. His ownership projections look really low for me, and I don't think that having Harden 3 times Giannis's ownership is right. So I think that I can get a little bit of leverage on the field by going to Giannis in a spot where people seem to be overlooking him for reasons that I'm not totally sure of.
All right, to building block number 2. Jules, who's a mid-tier option people should have in their lineups tonight?
Yeah, he's a little bit more expensive than your classic mid-tier, and that's John Collins at $7,200. But he might be my favorite play on this slate. I like him so much that I just feel like you have to get him into some of your lineups. The Brooklyn Nets are so bad defending big men, whether you want to call him a power forward or a center. Collins has been a guy that's shown a really safe floor and a really high ceiling so far this season. He's already scored right around, I think, 45 DraftKings points in his one matchup against Brooklyn. Even on the second night of a back-to-back, the Hawks played Toronto really tough last night. I think that Collins is just a great play against a Brooklyn team that seems to get torched by opposing bigs every single time out.
Josh, who are you looking at in that mid-tier range?
This one makes me a little nervous because of the matchup, but I've been looking at Aaron Gordon tonight, like more than I probably should. Clearly a scary matchup with the Jazz D, but he's at 6,400 tonight. And I just feel like that's way too cheap for someone with a ceiling like Gordon. No one's on him. No one seems to be looking at him. And I think that feels like a nice differentiator in a tournament.
Hey, aim small, miss small. Go for it. Alex, mid-tier range, who are you looking at?
I like Tristan Thompson at 6,000. Larry Nance just got ruled out for this game, and Thompson played 35 minutes for the first time since coming back from his injury. He put up 15, 13, and 5 assists with 2 blocks. So, like we've talked about before, matchups, I'm not looking as much of the matchup as a situation. He's going against New Orleans. Anthony Davis is there, but at the same time, he's priced like so comfortably for cash or for tournaments. He can go for 40 or 50 DraftKings points, and the Cavs are just running out of options offensively. So I think they'll look to him tonight.
Josh, our final building block of the night. Who's a great lineup starter who could have value because of low projected ownership?
I'm going weird again because I don't think a ton of people are going to go there.
Let's get weird.
I have to. I think that Kyle Kuzma is going to go overlooked because of his health. And in a matchup against a putrid Detroit defense in the late night hammer, I think that I have a lot of value. There's so many minutes to go around right now on the Lakers with LeBron out that I think that I can get, again, a little bit of leverage over the field and leverage that injury risk. I'll take my chances and have the potential for a 50-point fantasy game.
Okay, 2K going to cost you $7K tonight. What about you, Alex?
I like Bojan Bogdanovic at 5,800. Coach Nate McMillan made a point to say they're going to run more plays for him with Turner out of the lineup and just the way things have been going for Indiana. And he's put up 20 real-life points 2 games in a row with 13 combined rebounds, 5 combined assists, 3 combined steals. So I think people, this Boston Indiana game is going to be pretty slow paced. I think everyone's going to be focused on Domantas Sabonis and maybe Thad Young. So I think Bojan's ownership may be lower than it should be given his price.
Jules, a great lineup starter who could have value because of low projected ownership.
Yeah, I'm not feeling quite as great about this pick anymore. I thought Blake Griffin would be a little bit more overlooked earlier in the day when I was doing my research than he will be now. I mean, Alex had him as his lineup starter, so obviously he's getting some attention against the Lakers. But in cash games, if you're going to be playing James Harden or Giannis for that matter, it's going to be really hard to fit Blake Griffin in. So I think Griffin could be a lower-owned guy in terms of just the studs that you have to pay up for on this slate. And although he doesn't have quite the same ceiling, could really pay off in this matchup. But if you want to say that Griffin's going to be highly owned, then just look at the guy that he shares the front court with. Andre Drummond could go overlooked, and the Lakers, Griffin, Drummond, whoever you want to call it, they're terrible defending bigs, so they're going to have an advantage with both of those guys, really.
All right, we got your NBA building blocks. We're going to look at tonight's NBA tiers contest with you guys coming up after Pat Mayo talks Sony Open, which is after we talk some early Super Bowl odds.
Hey, Brendan Glasheen here, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Bruce Arians had enough of the broadcast booth, serving as his temporary retirement home, so the 66-year-old has decided to return to the sidelines. He was named the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Considering he's worked with Ben Roethlisberger, Carson Palmer, and Andrew Luck, I think we can all agree Jameis Winston is his toughest challenge yet. Arians mentored Big Ben. Look how he's turned out. Palmer's career lasted longer than it should have. And okay, Luck's a stud no matter what. Fair to say, though, Arians was helpful, setting him on the right track his rookie year. He's worked with great receivers, too. Reggie Wayne, Larry Fitzgerald. Now Arians has an above-average setup at wideout with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Adam Humphries. This seems like a picture-perfect marriage. Now, can Arians get the most out of the Bucs' young talent? Should be fun to watch.
Wow, this is a real treat, folks.
Oh,
a real treat. We're going quad box for our first NFL segment of the day.
All right, what a delight. Even more delightful is the DK Live foursome on your screen. Reed Fowler, Steve Buchanan, Pierce Dietrich, and Jeff Ulrich. Welcome to all 4 of you, every single one.
Now, time to take out the old crystal ball for NFL Seeing the Futures. Basically, you're taking a look at the adjusted futures bet for the Super Bowl as we head into the divisional round.
Okay.
So, heading into the weekend, the Saints have the best odds to win the Super Bowl right now at plus 225. So, Steve, do you agree that they're the front runner here?
You know, maybe it's because I haven't seen them play in a couple of weeks now, but when I think about a team that's going to win the Super Bowl, the Saints aren't the first ones that come to mind. When you look at the odds on the DK Sportsbook right now, the Colts at plus 1,200. I mean, that just feels like some killer odds that you could really take advantage of right now. I mean, they're firing off on all cylinders right now. Their defense is a little bit underrated at this point. When you look at the teams that are left here, I think the Colts have to be amongst the favorites for defense with the teams that are left in the running right now. And I think they have a legitimate chance of beating the Chiefs this week as well. I just think they have a little bit of everything that they can use against any of these teams that are left. So I think the Colts are the front runner for me right now.
Oh, Pierce, do you agree?
No, it's the Saints. Go with the chalk. Top 5 offense, 3rd best run DVOA, 6th fewest penalties. Pro Football Focus has them with the 2nd best special teams. They're going to play all of their playoff games at home except for the Super Bowl. Go with the chalk.
Go with the chalk. Reed, do you agree? Do you think the Saints should be the front runners here at plus 225?
Yeah, I agree with this too. In terms of the best odds, I think Steve is right with that. Colts gives you the most confidence. But I mean, the Saints are such a good team, right? In terms of their defense, they're in the top 10. I think they're 6th in turnover percentage. And really, that's what you want, right? You want a good defense coming into the Super Bowl. And just look at what they're able to do at home. They're scoring 35-plus points on average over the past few games. And if and when they do travel to Atlanta, they're scoring close to 30 points there as well. That's a place that they're familiar with. So the path to the Super Bowl for the Saints is pretty good. You have a veteran coach and QB. That's the equation that you want. So I'm with Pierce here.
Jeff, do you agree with these guys? Do you think that New Orleans has the best chance here?
Yeah, I got kicked off the show yesterday for being mean, so I'm going to try a new leaf here.
Oh, I heard about that.
I think everyone had good picks so far. They're good picks. I mean, look, you have to think the Saints are the front runners, right? Like, you look at the two favorites, AFC, NFC. I mean, I don't want a part of the Chiefs at whatever they're at. It's not much better, bigger odds than the Saints right now. And I think the Saints are deserving favorites. I still think if the Rams make it to the finals and go into New Orleans, I think that's a bad matchup for New Orleans. So personally, I'd rather take the deeper odds on the Rams. But as far as deserving, Saints are absolutely deserving. Their defense has stepped up the second half of the year. They still got Drew Brees. They got the running backs. They're the favorites for the Super Bowl. There's no question. It's not bad odds.
Reed, the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles are at plus 1,200 to win the Super Bowl. How much do you like those odds, or would you rather take their opponent last year, the Patriots, at plus 600?
Yeah, this one's tough. If you look at the Patriots and you just look at historically with the Super Bowl, the Patriots getting there have the easier path, right, than the Eagles do. But just give me the longer odds on the Eagles at plus 1,200 because the Patriots, 3 times back-to-back-to-back, it's never been done in Super Bowl modern era, or just in the history of it. Now, if you take history aside, the Patriots have a knack for making these things happen at this time, but you just like the Eagles at that number a lot better. I don't have faith necessarily in the Patriots to get it. And even the Chargers, right? The Chargers do present probably the biggest upside that they've ever presented this year or this season, or even in their history in terms of the postseason. So it'd be hard pressed to take the Patriots at 600. I'd rather go with the Eagles.
Jeff, you like in Philadelphia or New England?
Yeah, no, I agree with Reed here for one time in my life. I mean, I just don't think this is the same Patriots team as usual. And I think the Chargers and the Colts, yeah, those are teams the Patriots have owned, but these are different teams than we're used to seeing. The Chargers have a very good defense. The Colts are the most well-rounded team in the AFC, in my opinion. And the Patriots have an aging Tom Brady who's clearly declining and a lack of real explosive options with the decline of Rob Gronkowski, too. We've seen that this year. So I think it's a bad spot for the Patriots. I'd much rather take a shot on a longer odd team. And why not Nick Foles? I mean, we know he can do it. I mean, it's not like he can't get hot in the postseason. So, yeah, I'd much rather take the Eagles if I'm choosing between those two.
Yep, we also are well aware of your obsession with Nick Foles. It's like the Tevin Coleman, I guess, of the postseason for you.
St. Nick.
Few athletes come through for me in the clutch. You know, when I'm betting on Nick Foles MVP and to win the Super Bowl last year. So, you know, hey, he's a lifer.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Good stuff. Pierce, Philadelphia plus 1,200 or New England plus 600?
He's not going to come through for you this time. This is ridiculous. This is not an easy. Reed said
Pierce is back.
Yeah, Reed said the Patriots have an easier path. That's a little bit of an understatement. The Eagles basically have to walk across hot coals with broken glass. They've got to beat the Rams on the road. They'll have to beat the Saints on the road, and then they've got to win the Super Bowl. This isn't last year. That's pretty tough. Meanwhile, the Patriots, it's basically a gimme against the Chargers, and then they play the Chiefs, which Jeff always says the Chiefs choke. I guess the Chiefs aren't going to choke this time, Jeff? What's the deal?
Well, no, they're going to choke, Pierce, but they're going to choke this week against the Colts. So
I love how you said the Patriots aren't the same team. They're never the same team. They've always been different, and they still win.
Steve,
true.
Can I go now?
You look bored. Yeah, go ahead, bud.
I mean, how in anybody's right mind are you going to take the Eagles in this spot? They're going to go and beat the Rams, and they're going to beat the Saints? Okay, because that's stellar defense. That's what's going to be. It's going to put them into the Super Bowl. They barely stopped Allen Robinson last week. They're going to stop Michael Thomas this week? No. So how? You know what that bet's good for? Reed was like, "Oh, I like those betting odds better." That's a great bet if you don't like keeping money and you like donating to other places, because that's exactly what you're doing if you take the Eagles in that spot. Horrible.
And how were the Eagles last time, Steve? Did they beat the Bears? I mean,
they did, because they have a guy who can't kick. So that's why they won. Otherwise, did the Eagles win that game? Did they win that game, Reed?
they scored more points. So
Okay,
yeah.
let's throw it back to Reed. Thank you very much.
It's the wow.
I love these guys. I love having all four of them together.
That was the two
It's like
goalpost
Christmas.
hits heard around the world. So unfortunate. All right. This year's two upstart teams, the Rams and the Chiefs, have pretty similar odds here.
Yep.
Chiefs at plus 400 or Rams at plus 450. So which one of these do you like better, Jeff? Who's in a better spot?
Yeah, give me the Rams. I mean, I mentioned them off the top. I mean, I think people are overlooking the fact that they went through the little slump, but now they've given Todd Gurley like 4 weeks to rest. I'm not afraid of the Cowboys as a matchup this week at all. And then, like I said, no one's going to be on them going into the Superdome because they're probably going to take on New Orleans. So as big underdog, it's just a no pressure spot, and I think they match up better than most teams against the Saints. I just don't like the path for the Chiefs this year. I think Patrick Mahomes is great. I think he's going to have a real tough time with the Colts, not just him, but the entire Chiefs team in general. And then even if they get past them, you know, it's not exactly a cake matchup versus either the Patriots or the Chargers. So I'd much rather take a shot with the Rams at those odds. I think they have a better shot.
Pierce, do you like Kansas City or LA in this spot?
I'll take LA. It's not so much LA. It's just like Jeff mentioned, the Chiefs, they got to get past the hot Indianapolis team, and then they got to get past New England. And we all know that the NFL cheats for New England every time. Isn't it weird? They're always in the Super Bowl.
Ooh.
Every year they're in the Super Bowl.
Why is Pierce back?
Heated like, remember the Patriots are going to lose that game going into halftime, and then this 50-yard pass interference gives the Patriots 7 points, brings them back in the game. Every year, count on it. It's going to happen.
All right,
And I miss conspiracy theory, Pierce, so much.
all right.
He's back, Jeff.
Everybody,
I'm probably
take
going
a
to die in a
minute.
mysterious car crash now.
Yeah, take a minute and put your tinfoil hats on before we continue. Steve, I'm going to guess you're taking LA here because you think the Colts are going to beat the Chiefs.
I mean, this is a tough one, honestly, because here's my thing with the Rams. I mean, at least the Chiefs have been consistent pretty much all season long. I mean, we talked about yesterday how since Goff played the Chiefs in that game, he really has kind of fallen off a cliff since that point. He scored 40 DK fantasy points against the Chiefs, 413 passing yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. But since that game happened, he's only thrown for over 300 passing yards once, has only had more than one passing touchdown in a game once since that game. And while the Chiefs defense has its issues, they still end up scoring like a bajillion points every single game. So it makes up for that shoddy defense. So while I don't love the Chiefs against the Colts this week, I would rather take the Chiefs over the Rams. I just don't think they're consistent enough to be able to get that far. So in this sense, comparing these two teams, I'll have to take the Chiefs in this one.
Interesting. Reed, where are you going?
Yeah, to Steve's point, we've seen the Rams in some spots on the road just really haven't shown up. And so I'm with him with the Chiefs here. And I forget who mentioned it last or yesterday in terms of Andy Reid's record. Look, 20-4 after a bye and 3-1 in the postseason with that record. So he's really got, obviously giving him time. And the D scares you, right? Kansas City's defense does scare you. They've gone into shootouts and they just haven't really closed, especially towards the end of the season. But I'm with Steve here. Kansas City in this matchup, especially with the Patriots team that, again, we can call it what we want to call it, but they don't look the same. They can still potentially get there. I just like that path a lot easier.
Pierce, the longest odds on the board at plus 1,800. That's Dallas. What are the chances the Cowboys end the season as Super Bowl champions here, man? Any chance at all? No?
I'd say they're about 1,800.
Okay, that sounds good.
Not going to happen. They don't have the players. They don't have the personnel not to win 2 road games and then a neutral site game against, by the way, the best teams in football. Not going to happen.
Steven.
It was a nice story. I'm glad that we got here. I'm glad they got as far as they did. But, like, realistically, they have to be considered to have the toughest road of all the teams to get to the Super Bowl. First, they have to get past the Rams, and then they would have to get past the Saints because, of course, Philly's not going to get past them. So you just think that they don't have the offense to keep up with either of these teams here. It was fun while it lasted to Dallas, but this is where it ends.
All right, does it end this weekend, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, 99.99% says it does, but an interesting stat, look, Dak Prescott since 2016, including the postseason, in terms of game-winning drives, primetime wins, and rushing TDs, he leads the entire league. Now, you take that with a grain of salt, obviously, with who they're playing, and they have to be down, obviously, to get those primetime and those comeback wins, but this guy has something special. There's a very, very slim chance, and that's why the odds are the highest, but yeah, I'm with these guys. It's not going to happen, but it could be a nice story.
All right, Jeff, what could you add to that?
I mean, it's not all around possible. If they win this week and the Eagles win, they get a home game for the conference finals. So
won't happen.
It's in the realm of possibility. Look, if you're looking for a long shot, just bet the Colts money line. to the Super Bowl. Bet the Colts money line every week. They're going to be juiced. They're going to be underdogs. That's the long shot play for me. I'd much rather take the Colts than the Cowboys, but yeah.
All right, great work, football squad. We're going to let you take a break because we got to talk some hockey. But first, here's Adam Kaufman with more on those Cowboys.
Cowboys eked out a wild card win over the Seahawks behind solid to stellar games from Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and Amari Cooper. Next up, of course, a visit to Los Angeles for the divisional round game Saturday night. Adam Kaufman here with DallasCowboys.com beat writer Nick Eatman. Nick, good to see you again. Now the Cowboys hot, wins in 8 of 9, but as of this moment, Rams favored by 7. I'm sure the boys know that. So what's the attitude in the locker room, and how challenging is it facing LA on the road, especially when you factor in the bye week?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is always one of those, rust versus rust, type situations, for the Rams. The Cowboys were in this boat just a couple of years ago, and it didn't work out for them. They started out poorly and lost the game to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And so, and obviously the Rams have gone off of last year and a great season and lost at home. So, I'm sure that's the narrative for them. But for the Cowboys, it's just, here's the next opponent. Stay hot, keep it rolling. This is why they played that Week 17 game against the Giants and, wanted to build some momentum and carry it into the playoffs. And I think if you saw in the playoff games, the teams that were hot that went into the playoffs, Indianapolis, Philadelphia, the Cowboys, they ended up winning. Now, Baltimore was pretty hot too, and it didn't work out. But for the most part, momentum has carried on into the playoffs.
Rams are terrific at home, 7-1. The Cowboys only 3-5 on the road, so kind of a role reversal for them. What are the keys to taking away that advantage, obviously, from LA?
Well, I think that the key is to stop their best player, and that's what teams try to do to Zeke, and that's what the Cowboys are going to have to do to try to stop a Gurley. It'll be interesting to see what his situation will be like. I know he's been banged up and he's limited in practice, but the Cowboys are expecting to face him for sure. And I think, making them as one-dimensional as possible, it will be the ultimate key.
Rams tend to give up big plays. They pressure well, though. Dak doesn't handle that so hot. So how can he become seemingly the first QB in the league to actually avoid Aaron Donald?
Well, that's going to be interesting, of course. And you've got the Cowboys with some banged up offensive linemen, especially at guard. So, you'll have to control them. I mean, everyone's here is talking about, Donald's Donald. I mean, he's great. It's when Sue is on, when Ndamukong Suh is really at his best, that's when the Rams are tough because, you do have no other answer. You can block anybody. Depends on how many guys you want to put on, on Donald. But when Sue's playing on his game, then that's really going to be a challenge. So, I think that the Cowboys are going to have to try to do some things wide, kind of make those guys put them on the run. But they've got so many athletes. There's so many talented defensive players that's why their defense is good. I think the numbers are a little bit misleading. They give up some big plays, but I think for the most part, the defense, when they're ready to play, and I bet you they're going to be ready to play, they're definitely tough.
What's your prediction for this one out in LA?
It's tough. I mean, I do think the Rams are probably the best team that they've faced all year. And I say that because the Saints, where the game is, this will be the toughest matchup to play them out there with so much going on. But, I like what Dallas is doing here. I do think this was a favorable matchup. It's not something that you go crazy about because they could be playing the Saints again. I don't think they should be cheering about playing the Rams, but I think it was a better matchup for them. I like what Dallas is doing. I'm going to stick with it, and this is a round that I've never seen before. I've been around for a long time. I've never, seen the Cowboys go further than this. So I'm gonna say that maybe it happens. Go up to Los Angeles. I think they're going to run the ball well, and I do think those linebackers are going to fly around and help create some turnovers. So I think that give me Dallas and another close one.
All right, Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com covers the team, has for a couple of decades, and we'll see if they can take you on to the conference finals. Best of luck.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
All right, not a lot to choose from tonight around the NHL, and the reason I say that is because it's only a 3-game slate, including 2 teams squaring off with each bringing an 8-game losing streak to the table.
Exciting, but we're a glass half full kind of people around here.
Yes, we are.
So let's say hello to Chris Wassel of Awesemo.com, and we need your help choosing between some of the top options at each position. Like at center. So you got Flames center Sean Monahan coming off a 10-point fantasy night in his last game. He's going to cost you $7K versus Colorado. So do you like him, or will you pay up to the top and get Mr. Consistent Nathan MacKinnon for $8,000?
Okay, the dilemma of dilemmas always. The first one comes right out. I am actually going to take Sean Monahan tonight for this reason. Monahan at home is almost money. Whereas, look, the Colorado Avalanche have struggled a lot, especially at the back end of back-to-back games. They've given up around 4 goals a game in this scenario, which means there should be pucks that go in the net. You would figure that considering Calgary line 1 figures in about 40 to 42% of the offense, that nets you at least a good chance of seeing a goal or two on that line, which means, well, point potential is a little bit higher with Mr. Monahan.
All right, as for the wingers, Chi-Town's Patrick Kane has been on a bit of a hot streak. He's 7,400 against Nashville. But another option, how about Flames winger Elias Lindholm? Coming off a 2-apple outing. His price tag, 6-7, facing Colorado. Which guy lands on your roster?
This is another fun question. This is why. For tournament play, I want Patrick Kane absolutely. He gives me the greatest potential of scoring goals. That's one part. For cash, though, I actually do not mind Elias Lindholm for this reason. He will get you assists. He will get you a block shot here and there. He will get shots on net. It's one of those literally glass half open, half closed type of night where if you're going to tournaments, you want Patrick Kane because his price is $7,400. It's not that expensive. It's not at around $8,000 like it usually is.
All right, so back on the blue line, PK Subban has a 3-game point streak and costs $5,500 at Chicago. Or you got Anaheim's Hampus Lindholm, who will run you $300 less as his Ducks host the Senators. So where are you going on this one?
I am going PK Subban any day, every day, all day. For $300 more, it's not much of a difference. You have Subban going up against one of the league's worst penalty kills in Chicago at 73%. And to be perfectly honest, point streak, too good to be true sometimes, but in this case with PK Subban, the right players are coming back, getting into a rhythm. Look for maybe a Philip Forsberg PK Subban mini stack at some point tonight against the Blackhawks.
All right, let's wrap this one up. Between the pipes, your top price goalies, that's be Pekka Rinne at 8-3 against Chicago, or John Gibson, he's $100 less. Chris?
Here's the fun part. You never quite know at Randy Carlyle what you're going to get and when your goalie is going to be confirmed. That's a problem. Remember, 8 o'clock lock tonight. So you're hoping that when the Nashville Beat walked away from their confirmation of Pekka Rinne that they're not going with Saros tonight. You're going to be on pins and needles a little bit here. You might be biting your nails. If you panic a little bit, which is okay, there may be a backdoor option in Connor Dalia, who's just 6,900. But if Rinne does get confirmed, I am going with Rinne, expecting a higher shot total over what John Gibson should see against the Ottawa Senators.
It's a perfect opportunity to remind everyone, get that DK Live app like right now if you're not already watching us on it.
Stay in with all that info.
Download that. It has all the latest up-to-date updates,
lineup, injury news, etc.
Updates.
But before you take off, Chris, please hit us with your slate approved pick, your lock on tonight's slate.
It is none other than Johnny Gaudreau. There is no hotter player right now in the league, and to be quite blunt about this, who on Colorado could really slow him down? Not even Nathan MacKinnon's line, because Nathan MacKinnon's line has been getting attacked at around 12 or 13 high danger chances per 60, which is a nice way of saying just about every few shifts they're on the ice, a high danger chance is going the other way against them.
All right, thank you, Chris. We appreciate it. We've still got Pat Mayo on tap and tears of joy around the NBA. But first, it's Adam Levitan from his DFS Edge solo podcast.
We are coming off of a hideous week. Yes, that's right. This past week was undoubtedly one of the worst, if not the worst, slates of the entire season, maybe in the history of DraftKings. And I'm not one to say that typically. I don't think that I've ever called before like a slate a bad slate or a terrible slate or whatever. I mostly think that people who say that, it's just like weak-minded stuff that people say when a slate is hard or when the matchups don't produce layups or the pricing doesn't produce layups. People are like, oh, it's a terrible slate. This slate sucks. It's just another excuse that people give themselves for losing when in fact we're all operating under the same parameters. Like, to me, there's no such thing normally as a bad slate. But I did think that this wild card round slate was different because spending the cap wasn't even easy. I mean, unless you wanted to play Keenan and Melvin Gordon at the high end in the worst possible matchup at Baltimore, the really only viable expensive options were Ezekiel Elliott and DeAndre Hopkins and T.Y. Hilton. And there were still some questions about Hilton's ankle. Zach Ertz in one of the worst possible tight end matchups. Seattle and Dallas and Baltimore with these ridiculous run rates playing, 1960s football. So yeah, you could make a case that when there are like no options who can outscore Zeke realistically, then yeah, it's a bad slate. When it's hard to spend the cap, when you start to think to yourself, maybe spending $1,000 less than cap and when you want to fade DeAndre Hopkins is optimal, yeah, that's when is probably a bad slate. And that only really happens on 4-game slates with like the most defensive-minded teams possible all on them. But of course, we knew all this going in, right? Talked about it all last week. What it meant was that 20 points was going to go a long, long way. 30 points from a player could break the slate. And that's why I was so shocked that Ezekiel Elliott was only 59% owned in the $20 quarter milli maker.
Okay, looks like he's got some Hot Wheels or something to build here.
Who knows?
Shortly. His dog also seems very into it, as usual. We promised and now we deliver. Time for Tears of Joy with our NBA experts. A big hello to DK Live's Julian Edlow and Mike Barner, plus the Action Network's Matt LaMarca.
Now, before we jump into the Tears contest, is there any late-breaking injury or lineups news that you have your eye on before lock here, Julian?
Nothing too much. We did just get word that Nikola Mirotic is going to play on a minutes restriction. He's been out for quite a while with an ankle injury. So with him coming back, he's going to play about 20 to 25 minutes. I guess that gives a little bit of a downtick to Anthony Davis and Julius Randle, who already had a little bit of a slowed down matchup against the Cavs and a lot of blowout potential with that game in New Orleans and the Cavs playing on the second night of a road back-to-back. So I don't think a ton of people were on Randle and Davis to begin with, but Mirotic returning certainly doesn't help him out much.
Mike, anything to add to that?
No, I was watching the Mirotic thing as well. Also, I saw Devin Booker is definitely confirmed as out for the Suns. Second game he's going to miss. So DeAnthony Melton, Josh Jackson, and Kelly Oubre Jr. are all great cheap options for tonight.
LaMarca?
Yeah, I'm eyeing the Dallas situation. They've got Luka Doncic and Dennis Smith Jr. both listed as questionable for tonight. They're in a great spot against the Phoenix Suns, who are going to be playing on the second leg of a back-to-back. If both of those guys or just one of those guys are out, I definitely think it's going to create a situation where we can look to target them for some value. We don't need a ton of value tonight, but if you want to potentially jam in, multiple studs, I think Dallas might be the way to do it if we get some injury value there.
All righty, let's roll the Tears of Joy open because now that the housekeeping is out of the way, Tier 5, talk to me. Who's your top choice here? Action, Matt.
I'm going with DeAndre Jordan. Just mentioned the Mavericks, elite spot against Phoenix. They've been killed by opposing centers pretty much all season. Jordan coming off a great game in his last outing against the Lakers. He's got the highest median and ceiling projection among this tier in our NBA models over at Fantasy Lab, so he's the guy that I'm going with.
All right, he's kind of got me sold on Jordan here, Julian. You like him? You like someone else?
Yeah, Jordan's my guy here. He had a great game against the Lakers, finally came through in that matchup last time around, and now he gets the Suns with Phoenix coming on the second night of a back-to-back on the road here in Dallas. Tier 5, pretty low spot for DeAndre Jordan. He's a guy that we've seen in much higher tiers earlier in the season, so you get really good value on him here. Just to play devil's advocate a little bit, you could go with somebody like Marc Gasol going up against the Spurs. It's kind of a perceived bad matchup, a slower pace matchup, but Gasol has, the same type of upside as Jordan, maybe a little bit higher with his scoring ability. He's averaging 36 DraftKings points in 2 games against San Antonio this season. So there are some other plays that you can kind of pivot off of, and I think Jordan will be really highly owned in this tier, but that's with good reason. Jordan's still my guy here.
Okay, Mike, who do you like?
I'll go with Chris Dunn. He scored at least 31.8 DK points in 8 of his last 9 games. He's locked into a lot of playing time right now, especially after the Bulls traded away Justin Holiday. His scoring upside isn't off the charts, but his overall production has been great. He's averaged 4.3 rebounds, 7.8 assists, and 1.5 steals across his last 10 games.
Okay, gentlemen, to tier 6 we go. So who's your dude here, Mike, and why?
Facing the Pelicans is a great matchup for Tristan Thompson. The Cavaliers play at the 2nd slowest pace in the league, but they'll have to speed things up since the Pelicans play at the 6th fastest pace. These two teams just played each other on Saturday. Thompson scored 33.8 DK points in just 26 minutes. Larry Nance Jr. is out, so Thompson should be in line for some more playing time as well.
Hey, Matt, do you like Tristan Thompson as well, or is that Kardashian curse scaring you off?
You know I'm over that. I think the Kardashian curse is dead. I think Tristan Thompson's agent needs to get in touch with DraftKings. Why he's still in tier 6, I think, is a little bit of a travesty. He's been that good this season. He's coming off 40 DraftKings points in his most recent game. And like was previously mentioned, the Cavs really have no choice but to play him big minutes tonight with Larry Nance Jr. out of the lineup. They're going to be shorthanded again. The Pelicans play big. Thompson's their only answer, and he's been really good when given extended playing time this season. So I think the fact that you can get him in tier 6 is a steal, but kind of like Julian mentioned with DeAndre Jordan earlier, he probably will be the highest owned guy in this tier.
All right, Julian, it's 3 parts. Who's your guy in tier 6? Should Tristan Thompson still be in tier 6? And is the Kardashian curse dead?
Tristan Thompson is in tier 6, so I don't really care where he should be. I have no idea about the Kardashian curse.
Oh.
So those aren't really good answers right there, but I will give you one firm answer, and that's that this was the easiest tier, and you just locked Tristan Thompson in. It's too easy with the matchup that he has and the injury situation with Cleveland. I know we already mentioned that Tristan Thompson scored 34 DraftKings points in 26 minutes in this exact matchup 2 games ago. Then Larry Nance Jr. goes down last night. That leads to Thompson playing 35 minutes and scoring 42.75 DraftKings points in a difficult matchup against a really strong Indiana defense. So this is just all setting up for Thompson to see another 35 minutes and, get above 40 DraftKings points probably with the pace of play here. The only downside, he's probably going to be matched up with Anthony Davis. Maybe he gets into foul trouble. If you're looking at a pivot play, just to give somebody different, since we went across the board here, I'll go Chris Middleton in that big showdown against Houston. A lot of people might not be playing Giannis with Harden in tier 1, so you can get some exposure to Milwaukee that way.
All right, anyone upset about Tristan Thompson in tier 6, you're just going to want to email Tom Riggia, triggia@draftkings.com. All right.
I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to get you blown up like that.
I was just kidding, dude. It was an absolute joke. Definitely do not email
That's
Tom.
not his email address either, so.
Slate approved pick time, fellas. Who's your lock of the whole night? Julian. Does not have to be in tiers here, and feel free to take your time, make your argument. We got some time.
All right. Well, fortunately, he's in tiers and the classic slate, and it's James Harden. Just too much upside here. He's $12,200 in classic. He's in tier 1 against Giannis and Anthony Davis here in tiers, but the upside with Chris Paul and Eric Gordon out is just way too much. Hopefully, Milwaukee, a really good defensive team, scares some people off of his ownership in both formats, because I don't really mind this matchup. Yes, Milwaukee's good defensively, but they are better with their bigs. They pack it into the paint. I think that Harden's going to have plenty of room to shoot that step-back 3 that nobody can even defend to begin with unless you're going to foul him, and it leaves just a ton of upside for Harden. We saw that 91 DK point game. Yes, it did take overtime against the Warriors, but I think he's in a smash spot here against Milwaukee, so hopefully he goes overlooked and people are looking more at Giannis and Anthony Davis.
Mike, your lock play of the entire slate is who?
I really like D'Angelo Russell at 7,600 against the Hawks. The Hawks play at the fastest pace and allow the most points per game in the league, so that leaves plenty of offensive upside for Russell. He actually has a 29.9% usage rate, so this is a prime spot for him. The last time these two teams met, Russell destroyed them for 56.5 DK points over just 29 minutes.
Matt, that leaves you.
Well, really quick breaking news. Tristan Thompson now a game time decision.
Okay.
Oh, I guess the Kardashian curse is alive.
Real. It is real.
And well,
Look what we did.
I flirted with danger.
Matt,
you
the
declare that
moment-
curse dead,
No,
and this is what happens.
Matt,
Someone
it was
must
the
have emailed
moment
Tom.
that you were sitting there and you said, I think that curse is dead. It's done. And the curse was like,
This is
"Ah."
great. This is great.
Yeah, so you brought back the Kardashian curse.
We
Thank
have
you.
did
all
not
the up-to-date
take long.
updates here.
For my slate approved pick here, I'm going with John Collins on the other side of that Atlanta-Brooklyn matchup. Brooklyn has just been destroyed by centers all season. They've given up, points and rebounds in bunches. Collins is one of the best in the business in terms of putting up double-doubles. I think he gets an easy one here and has upside for like a 20-20 type of game. At 7,200, I think that he's one of the best pure values on the slate.
Oh, well, that's all the basketball time we have for tonight.
For the whole show?
folks.
Are we done?
Yeah. However, still got some more NFL on the way for you, and be sure to check the DK Live app to find out if Tristan Thompson's going to go.
What's up? It's Brendan Glasheen here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Broncos have reportedly hired Bears defensive coordinator Vic Fangio as their new head coach. First go-around as a head man for the 60-year-old Fangio. As you can imagine, he's been around the block. He coached Ray Lewis in Baltimore. Along with Jim Harbaugh, he made a run to the 2012 Super Bowl against Ray Lewis. Other stops include Houston, Indianapolis, Carolina, and New Orleans over the course of his 32-year coaching career. Fangio's resume is a bit lengthy, but the highlight might be sitting right at the top. The 2018 Chicago Bears defense gave up the fewest points in the NFL this season, while also leading the league in run defense, takeaways, and opponents' passer rating. He'll have his work cut out for him, though, even if he returns the Denver defense to its former glory. The offense is a bit of a mess right now. Case Keenum ranked 30th in passer rating this year. Plus star running back Phillip Lindsay will miss most of the offseason as he works his way back from wrist surgery. Fangio, the fourth head coach hired by John Elway in his 6 seasons as the Broncos GM. So if the Fangio and then the Gary Kubiak regime fails, might be time for Mr. Elway to look himself in the mirror and question his job security.
Well, as if this Wednesday couldn't get any better, we're finally talking golf. What? But wait, there's more. As if talking golf couldn't get any better, we have Pat Mayo has been waiting patiently, joining us to look at some betting options leading up to tomorrow's Sony Open, the first full field event on the PGA Tour in 2019.
So, Pat, Justin Thomas currently has the best odds to win the tournament on DraftKings Sportsbook at plus 600. Would you go with him, or is there someone with longer odds that you like to come out on top?
Yeah, I'm not one to bet anyone in a golf tournament, especially a full field golf tournament of 144 players. This week at 6-1, he is the overwhelming favorite to win by any metric that you look at. He's the best qualified for this. He's won this tournament before, but it's just such short odds that if you play Justin Thomas at 6-1, and I know that coming from betting on football or betting on baseball or basketball, like you're paying minus 135, you're good like underdog money lines plus 175. This is golf. And 6-1 is not great odds for a guy that, does he have a 6% chance of winning this tournament? I don't think so. He's probably around like 4%. You're just not getting that value on Justin Thomas. And if you do make that play at the top, you have relatively little money left over to bet down the course of the board where there's just much deeper odds.
Patton Kizzire won this tournament last year in a marathon playoff. If you look at the former champ player prop, he sits at plus 600. How much do you like his odds, Pat, or is there another past champion you like a little better?
Well, the problem is if you're looking at the past champion odds, then you're putting basically, does Patton Kizzire not only match up in a 6-1 head-to-head with Justin Thomas, but the rest of the previous champions that are in this field? Patton Kizzire won this tournament 80-1 last year. He's 40-1 coming in this time around. I don't hate it, but it's not something that I would play.
Okay, so another fun prop is top European player Paul Casey is listed at plus 164 in that category. So would you consider him the best choice out of the European golfers, or do you like another option?
I think that he is the best choice of all the European players in the field, but those odds are a bit much. Like betting under 2-1 to knock off an entire grouping of players. Like Paul Casey, you can get in some head-to-heads around even money or minus 110 against one guy instead of a collection of players. That makes a lot more sense if you're going to play that sort of prop, rather play the head-to-head. I like Paul Casey as one of the guys who can win this tournament. He's at deeper odds. I'd much rather play his outright odds and top 5 odds over playing this very short top Euro prize.
All right, finally, Pat, which sleeper picks with longer odds do you think could end up in the top 10 and fetch a healthy payout here?
Well, I mean, top 10 odds and outright odds are a bit different. Like, if we're going to be talking about like a top 10, someone like Paul Casey makes a lot of sense. He generates a lot of top 10s. He's the same price as someone like Matt Kuchar, who also very familiar with the top 10 and just won at the main corollary course, El Chameleon, at the OHL this past November. But he was 60 to 1 to win that tournament. He's 40 to 1 to win this tournament. So both their top 10 odds are you're going to find in like the 5 to 1, 4 to 1 range. Not terrible. I like Ian Poulter, and he's one of the guys that really poses a threat to Paul Casey as top European here. He's 60 to 1, 66 to 1, depending on when you may have gotten him. But his top 10 odds are going to be a little bit better. He was excellent at ball striking last week at Kapalua, and the putter let him down. He's not normally someone who putts very poorly. He's back on Bermuda. That's great. The greens are a little bit faster this week than they were a week ago, and we're dealing with pristine conditions. So Ian Poulter is a top 10 play, is someone I really like. Him and Kevin Tway and Danny Lee, 3 top 10 bets for him.
Ooh, love that. Wonderful. Good stuff, Pat. Enjoy your night, please. As for all of you watching right now, we have an exciting event to tell you about.
Indeed we do. Specifically for those of you in the tri-state area, this Friday through Sunday, that's January 11th through the 13th, DraftKings will be hosting its first ever sports betting national championship.
That's when we will crown the first ever DraftKings sports betting national champion in Jersey City, New Jersey.
As for why you should care and be there, you could have the chance to compete for the grand prize of
$1 million.
$1 million.
Okay, so
1 and 6 zeros.
For more information, head on over to DraftKings.com.
Hey, I'm Adam Kaufman with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Last year, Browns were 2-5-1 when they fired Hugh Jackson. Not good. They promoted defensive coordinator Greg Williams to interim coach, moved Freddie Kitchens to offensive coordinator in Cleveland. You know what? Finished 5-3. Team absolutely would have been justified in running it back. But they reportedly decided to name Kitchens the new head coach, and they canned Williams rather than bumping him back to D.C. That part actually makes sense. If the Browns struggle, they don't want to have internal strife. Plus, a head coach should get to name his own coordinators. Just stinks for Williams. So let's talk Kitchens. Well-respected, probably not a guy we expected to make a video about this offseason, but he did a great job as OC, developed a close relationship with budding star Baker Mayfield. The two obviously had plenty of success working together. Some year, though. I mean, Kitchens started last season as Cleveland's running back coach. He was elevated to OC when Todd Haley got the axe. That was after week 9. Now, a head coach. Almost as wacky as a largely unsuccessful college head coach losing his job only to get the same title from an NFL team about 6 weeks later. But, that never happened.
Oh, hey, we have the perfect amount of time left in this show to talk NFL showdown picks for Saturday's 2 contests, and here to do it is the Quad Box.
Woo!
Reed Fowler, Steve Buchanan, Pierce Dietrich, and Jeff Ulrich.
So DK has 2 showdown contests in place for Saturday's divisional round games. We start with the Colts and Chiefs. Who is your captain pick, Steven?
Yeah, I'm going to start with Andrew Luck. I mean, it's hard not to like someone who's thrown for an average of 288 passing yards and 7 touchdowns over their last 3 games. And you got to think this is going to be a close game. And, it could showcase both quarterbacks chucking the ball around all throughout this game here. I mean, over the last 3 games, if Luck was in a showdown contest and he was the captain, he would have ended with 28, 36.1, and 38 points over those last 3 games. And those against teams that, were basically pretty mediocre against opposing quarterbacks in Houston, Tennessee, and the Giants. And now he gets a matchup against the Chiefs. And we all know how bad that defense is. So you have to imagine he's going to be right in that realm again of fantasy points. So I absolutely love Andrew Luck in this spot.
Reed, who you going with?
Yeah, I like Travis Kelce at 14-1 here. And like Indianapolis against the tight end, look, they're giving up a ton of receptions, targets, and yards, top 2 in all of those categories respectively. They're averaging giving up about 70 yards. And again, in the playoffs, right, you want to rely on your studs, and especially for a rookie quarterback, although Patrick Mahomes is playing obviously better than a rookie has in history, he's going to go to Kelce. You're going to rely on Kelce. You're going to rely on that running game, especially at home. So in a smash spot against a bad defense to the tight end, good defense otherwise, I like Kelce in this spot.
Pierce, Mahomes was mentioned. You want to go with the rookie QB?
Nope. I like Mahomes, but Marlon Mack is the guy to lock in. The volume is through the roof. His offensive line is playing great lately, and they're facing off against the worst defensive line against the run in football. So they should control line of scrimmage. And as Steve mentioned, this is the worst run defense in football. Another fact, they are the second worst in the red zone. 72% of the time, Kansas City allows opponents to score touchdowns. If you want to win the showdown, you've got to score touchdowns. The volume should go to Mac.
Jeff, your captain, please.
Oh, so you have to score touchdowns to win showdown. I'll just take Tyreek Hill. He's got 13 or I don't know how many he is. He's got a bunch of touchdowns this year. But, I mean, look, everyone's going to point to the fact it's the Indianapolis secondary. They're good at shutting down the wide receiver. It's Tyreek Hill. Like, he's matchup proof. He is legitimately the most matchup proof wide receiver in the NFL. It's a playoff game. Special teams is going to come into effect. And if you notice the last game out, they were handing the ball off to Tyreek Hill a little bit with the bad weather. Don't be shocked if he rushes for a couple big games. Maybe puts up 60, 50 yards rushing as well. I think it's a good spot. Whenever it's a showdown, it's never a bad idea to have Tyreek Hill in your captain's spot.
Hey, Reed, how about a value play from this game? One that kid scored touchdowns.
Yeah, Jeff Ulrich, an international treasure there. I just think he's fantastic. Chester Rogers here at 4,600. Going back to that bad Kansas City defense, they're 28th, 29th ranked in terms of guarding those wide receiver 3s and 4s. And to Steve's point, Andrew Luck is going to be passing it quite a bit. They're the fastest paced team. You want to get as many spots in this. I think Chester Rogers is a guy that you don't have to pay extreme amounts to even get that upside. He's running about 5 targets or 6 targets at home, on the road. So if he gets a touchdown, he's gonna bring back value. So those all important touchdowns, Chester Rogers could get you one.
Where are you going on this, Jeff?
Well, just to spite Pierce, I'm taking Naheem Hines. Everyone was off him last week. He got 0 points. Still played 9 snaps, but you look at this game, the Colts aren't going to be up by like 25 points or anything. The Hines is going to get more snaps. And when the game flow does go against Mac, he'll get his snaps cut back a lot. So, again, Frank Reich comes from the Doug Peterson school of doesn't mind rotating running backs. I think it's a really big bounce-back game for Hines. I hope people stay off him.
Pierce, who can give us value? Who can return value in this game?
I'm with Reed. It's Chester Rogers. Inman, T.Y. Hilton banged up, so that's going to increase his usage a little bit. And as Reed mentioned, wide receiver 3 and 4, Kansas City struggles with those guys. They struggle with the slot receivers. That's where Rogers plays. They also struggle guarding your medium to short routes, and that's basically where your slot receiver routes go. So I think this thing slates well for Chester Rogers.
Steven, need some value in this game. Help me out, dude.
It's not Chester Rogers. It's Inman. Oh, he's banged up. Of course these guys are banged up. They play football. Just like, it's cold. Well, how are they going to play? It's cold outside. I mean, look, how many people not seeing this? I mean, Inman has a touchdown in 3 straight games now. He's seen 15 targets over the past 3 games. He's caught all but 2 of them for 176 yards, and it's the Chiefs' defense. I mean, for someone that's been averaging the looks that he's been getting in as of late, and with all the projected points you're thinking you're going to get in this game, it's got to be Inman at this point. And real quick on Hines. Jeff is like triggering me so bad today. So first he goes and says weather. He said the word weather. And then he starts talking about, no one was on Hines last week. Everybody was on Hines. I was on Hines. Everybody was on Hines. He played on 9 snaps. I barely saw him on the field. It was the worst experience I've ever had in my life of rostering a running back. Get you 0 DK fantasy points.
You got to play the bounce back, man. You can't be scared.
No bounce back. How could they not use him in that last game? Didn't even use him.
Look how great it's going to be on Monday when I come here and Marlon Mack has 5 points and Naheem Hines has like 25. I can make fun of
that is not going to happen.
Well, you know what? We have marked the tape.
Yeah. So if it does happen, we'll play that tape. We're going to roll that tape.
Let's go, Hines.
Yeah. All right, guys. Saturday's nightcap features the Cowboys at the Rams. So now we need your captain play for this game, please, Pierce.
I like Amari Cooper a lot. Everyone's expecting Dallas to run. LA's expecting Dallas to run. So if Dallas is smart, they're going to try to pass the ball. And this is a pretty good spot for Amari Cooper. He's going to match up against Marcus Peters, who is washed up. Even when he was a good cornerback, he was a risk-taking cornerback that got interceptions. He still gave up a lot of big plays. This year, the Rams, 7 100-yard games, 2 200-yard games. If he goes for 200 yards, you need him as your captain pick.
Okay, Jeff, captain, please.
So everyone on the show was so hyped up to attack the Dallas run defense last week, and now no one wants to play Todd Gurley. Arrested Todd Gurley, hasn't seen a snap in like 3 weeks. This guy's gonna go ape, bananas, whatever.
Yeah, well done.
Censoring himself.
Good job,
He's
President
the
Jeff.
focal point of the Rams. This is a really good spot to deploy Todd Gurley. Everyone's gonna be scared of C.J. Anderson too. You might see some C.J. Anderson, but if Todd Gurley gets off to a good start, you won't see much, and he's going to sap up all the points. I think Todd Gurley in the captain spot, the most logical for sure.
Reed, how do you feel about that Gurley pick, and also who's your captain?
Yeah, I like that Gurley pick. I'm actually sticking with his teammates on the Rams defense. Like at 6,900, it kind of worked well for a while with Chicago in that last showdown. Look, they're second in turnover percentage to Chicago. And the Dallas offensive line, for all the awards and accolades that they get, they've given up quite a bit of sacks. Their adjusted line rate is about 5th worst in the NFL. And Dak's been sacked close to 60 times this season. So if the Cowboys are playing catch up, and you can see the Aqib Talibs and the Aaron Donalds get to the quarterback, I think it's going to return some investment. Even if this is a shootout, I think you rostering a defense and getting those ancillary parts in this on the Rams offense is a good strategy here.
Steve, are you getting triggered by Jeff again?
No, he did pretty good that segment.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Robin Woods here. Don't let the Week 17 game log, dissuade you from playing him here, because if you let Week 17 production, base on who you're going to play, then you did real well with Blake Jarwin last week. Anyways, of the Rams receivers, he arguably has the best matchup of those guys. And this is someone who's averaging almost 12 yards per reception, 68% catch rate on the year. Who am I talking about? Woods. Woods is facing, sorry. But, look, Woods is still the main focus of this offense. He's averaging over 8.1 targets per game, 76 yards per game there. So I think he's a fine selection for the captain spot here.
Hey, Jeff, going back real quick to the Indy KC game, you do have someone on YouTube saying he really likes the Hines pick. Nobody is going to play him.
That's right, because they're not, because what he did last week was just so... I can't even talk.
Okay,
so
hey, relax, okay?
I literally can't wait till Monday. I can't wait.
Take a deep breath.
Jeff, that's the first time someone hit. I can't wait until Monday. Weekend.
Said no one
Get
ever.
me to Monday, am I right, man? For sure.
Jeff, finally, where can you find value in this game?
You got me there, Jesse. Look, my pick was Blake Jarwin. Blake Jarwin has now been diagnosed with a high ankle sprain. Seems kind of unlikely to play. Even if he does play, he's going to be very banged up. It's a situation to watch because I do think that the Dallas tight end, whoever's going to start, Rico Gathers, Dalton Schultz, one of these guys is probably going to get some serious targets because the Rams have some pretty good corners, and they're probably going to be in catch-up mode. And I think the tight end, we've seen it exposed against the Rams. George Kittle definitely exposed in the final week, and they've given up some monster games to that position. So I really did like Blake Jarwin. If his health improves, I'll go all out, but might be Uncle Rico time here. I don't know. Rico Gathers, it might be an interesting value play.
You see the mountains over there? I used to be able to throw a football right over them mountains.
Oh, God.
Little Uncle Rico. Oh, stop. Steven.
I appreciated that. Don't let these guys let you down.
Yeah,
I'm going with Everett here. There's really not a ton of value plays on this slate that really kind of makes you feel good. Everett is interesting because Dallas has been one of the worst teams against opposing tight ends. They're allowing 8.1 DK fantasy points per game, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's still the 9th highest in the league. 7 touchdowns allowed, 56 receiving yards in the 3 games before the final week of the season, because you don't really take any Week 17 things into consideration. He had 20 targets in those 3 games here, caught 14 for 103 yards there. So he's not someone that's going to go out there and break the slate for you. He's not going to go out and score, 15 or so DK fantasy points, but at $2,400, he definitely can return value here in this game. So I'm going to roll with him.
Reed, go ahead, partner.
Yeah, I'm doubling down on that. I really like that Everett call. If you look at his targets, to Steve's point, he's got 3 red zone targets in the last 4 games. The McVay and the Rams, they love to attack that middle. We saw with Cooper Kupp. We've seen it with Reynolds. And now, Everett he is essentially a wide receiver in the tight end spot. He's a guy that can run routes pretty quickly. He's a mismatch on that other side. And again, Dallas is not that good against tight ends. They let, Nick Van Nett and the Ed Dixon duo in Seattle get an average of about 7 receptions and 47 yards. And really, I'm not scared of Tyler Higbee at all in this matchup. To Steve's point, it's not going to get you 15 to 20 DK fantasy points, but at tight end, all you want, right, is that like 8 to 10. That's really going to solidify your spot there at 2,400. So I'm with that pick.
And for the cherry on top in this show, Pierce Dietrich, take it away.
45 seconds.
I want to get exposure to the Dallas passing attack. Be contrarian here. He's basically on the field the entire time. You want him on the outside. That's the trick here. You don't want the slot receiver. You don't want to go with Cole Beasley, because on the other side you got LA Rams' best slot cornerback in Nickel Roby-Coleman. And a lot of people are going to pick Beasley because they trust him. It's a terrible matchup for him. Gallup is the way to go in this spot.
Don't listen to Pierce. Play the revenge game. Tavon Austin. Always works.
Oh, we love you guys, but that's a show. So we'll see you tomorrow back here at 6 o'clock. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson.
Yeah, don't forget to check the DK Live app right now for updates for NBA and NHL lineups.
See you tomorrow.
That's important.